Unfortunately, we have a president, George W. Bush, that thinks he's John Wayne, that he can move through the countryside, through the world, and do whatever he wants to do, the Constitution be damned. The founders of our Constitution, however, wanted to limit the president. They were very fearful of another king being installed in the country. They had just fought a war against a king and parliament that they thought were not only terrorists, but treacherous people. So they wanted to make sure when they wrote the Constitution, the president would not be able to go about the world to in any way install a unilateral empirical presidency. But that's exactly what George Bush has tried to do, and he's done it very effectively. George Bush's doctrine, preemptive military action, which he has from day one since 9/11, which he used against Iraq, is the idea that if a country does not stand with us completely, or they may be a threat to somebody in the world, not necessarily the United States, that we can move in, bomb them, take military action, wiping out the countryside, killing not only the so-called enemy, but innocent citizens as well. But in our Constitution, in Article 1, Section 8, it says very clearly that only Congress has the power to declare war. So the founders of our country knew very well that in order for there to be any control in the country over a president, they had the power to do a number of things, but one of those was war. The founders of our Constitution were very wise. They knew if there was going to be any control over the so-called president, they needed to have control over a number of things. And there's a list of things in the Constitution, but one of them was, of course, to declare war. Because if a president can just go around declaring war, there's no limit on what the president can do. He can be anything he wants to be, and that's what George Bush has portrayed himself to be. The key to our constitutional system is the rule of the law. The president is supposed to represent the people and uphold the Constitution. He takes an oath to do that. To any way attempt to get around the Constitution, which George Bush has done a number of times, from breaking federal law by spying on American citizens, by violating universal treaties and international treaties around the world, by conducting torture, and a list of things that George Bush has not only been accused of but is guilty of, is to break the rule of law. When a president serves himself and breaks the rule of law, it is an impeachable offense. Under Article 2, Section 4 of the Constitution, it says very clearly that high crimes and misdemeanors or treason is an impeachable offense. And at this particular point in time, if George Bush decides to unilaterally attack Iran, which again he's saber-rattling to do so, he is, in my opinion, committing an impeachable offense. Thankfully, there are some in Congress who are starting to see the light, our representatives. One is House Judiciary Chairman John Conyers, who wrote a letter to President Bush on May 8, 2008, in which he expresses concerns that the president should not unilaterally attack Iran, that this does raise itself up to an impeachable offense. Senator Joseph Biden has said the same thing, so there may be some hope. I think the time for leniency for this president is over. I think that if he does unilaterally attack Iran without following the Constitution and letting Congress declare war in this particular situation is an impeachable offense, and simply because he's a lame duck president should not deter Congress from taking action against this man.